It is so easy to look around the world and to compare ourselves to other people constantly and all the time. You're going to go to someone who looks better than you think he has more than you, makes more money than you, and you will simply forget all about yourself and your life while you desire and want to have something that, one, does not belong to you, and second, you want it because you think that by the very nature that that person who has that thing makes them happier than you. And the issue here is not happiness. If you do want to be successful in life, you first need to define what success is, and if you do not want to be poor, you need to really decide and determine what being poor means. We live in societies in which being poor is a quality of character, reflected in material wealth. Therefore, what we've allowed to ourselves, unfortunately, as civilization, is to think that because someone does not have the sufficient wealth or means like us and ourselves, that they are for some reason of inferior value. If we keep treating each other like this, if we genuinely keep pushing each other to this extent, it's going to have to break somewhere. You are the one deciding what is best for you in your life, and you need to decide what you need to do regardless of what someone else does. I know that many of you read all kinds of self-help books, do and pay for all kinds of courses, pay thousands of dollars to learn how to be wealthy. And I shouldn't be the one telling you this because you need to discover this on your own. But what you will often discover is that these are essentially either pyramid schemes or your ticket into a world in which there are people that are abundant, that are sharing that with you because you contributed with your own money to it. And in a sense, this does make sense. And I have been a part of those things as well, where I had to put money, invest money in something of meaning, like an organization or a fund or a class, and then find myself having more knowledge, because the association that I made is because since I made the effort to pay something for something, it has value. So I associate the value and worthiness of something, and I equate it to how much it's worth in money. And I believe that this is the fundamental mistake we make as humans and individuals, because we value something based on how much it costs, how much numbers, zeros and ones it contains, instead of seeing what kind of value it has to us. Because if you for any reason desire a car, a house, or anything that you probably are breaking your back over for, try to imagine instead what and why do you actually want this thing, why do you need this house, and why do you need this car, and what you're going to do with it. The most fascinating and beautiful thing about the human mind is its capacity to project and to predict and to create outcomes for itself just by thought alone. A lot of us are prone to negative thinking because that is where we are vibrationally. If something happens to us, we imagine that the worst possible outcome is just there, and we, in a sense, and I hope you're going to go deeper into this yourselves, and understand that by doing that, by us feeling negatively about something, which is completely valid by the way, but being stuck in that feeling, we actually prolong and perpetuate that undesirable outcome, and we will never, if we're not released from that, allow ourselves to step into that energy of actually attracting the things that are good for us. But be mindful of one thing. If you do this deliberately, if you attract because or for an external outcome, if you deliberately put yourself in a certain vibration, such as joy or reason or love, then you are actually trying to trick the universe into giving you something that you are still not ready and worthy of receiving. You might think that way, you might repeat all kinds of mantras to yourself daily as to why you should or shouldn't have a certain thing that's not yours. Nothing is yours, essentially. But I have met so many people who do exactly this thing and they will never be successful. I'm not here to tell you how to be successful or give you the recipe of that, but I'm sharing with you what not to do in order to do that. And by you understanding what not to do, you get closer to what you should be doing and to what you actually want to do. What makes you inspired, what makes you want to grow and expand and help others do the same. A lot of the contemporary economy, market, and business is based on selling people an idea and packing it in a nice commercial. An example of this is TikTok, which, if you follow these kinds of profiles, can provide you with the most significant information on how to make a good commercial and how to make it inspiring to the eye. The irony in this is that we mostly focus on what we perceive visually, on what we see, which is why most of the marketing is visual presentations. However, what people do not understand is the nature and the message that is sent in this and how it is communicated to the people. Because you, when reading and when receiving a message, can have a plethora of responses, and any kind of advertising is meant to instill and instigate a response in you which will prompt you to purchase a service or goods or a product. Now, based on your response to the commercial, which is being tracked, by the way, based on their outreach, audience, and all these things, you will see for yourself whether that commercial or whether that thing you saw as being advertised makes you feel strong or weak. If you learn to, instead of purchasing a product, if you learn to resist that temptation and not be prompted into that form of action, but instead understand why that is the case, you will instantaneously raise the level of your consciousness to the level where you will understand why your habits and behaviors are prompted a certain way, which have kept you in the loop of being poor. I'm not saying you're poor, I'm not saying I am poor. I'm not saying anyone is poor. However, we did use these awful labels to categorize and divide each other into poor, rich, intermediate categories and castes. The world is changing, and the world is understanding more and more that these things do not function anymore. We cannot be as divided anymore and be profitable. If you want to profit and you think about doing it on your own, I would strongly advise against it, but it is up to you whether you do it or not. You cannot exist without being connected and correlated to the world around you. You cannot isolate yourself from the world, and you cannot isolate yourself from anything that you want to achieve, because you need things to happen and align for that to be possible. Like me recording this video and telling you this thing, because it could be literally this message that you needed to hear. The credit is not on me as the speaker of this message. The credit is on you listening to it and this message reaching you, because this is a knowledge that I haven't gathered somewhere else. This is something that exists within me in the same way that it exists within you. And it is up to you to use this knowledge, which you need to discover what is. I cannot tell you what that is, because then, since you're so conditioned to do so through media, through school indoctrination and your entire life, to give the credit to something or someone else. I ask nothing out of you. I only tell you that you need to discover this on your own by asking the question, and you know what the question is. If you consider yourself to be poor, the question asked is, how do I not get poor? And then the action will reveal itself so beautifully. I know this sounds extremely, maybe even funny, but it comes from the heart. And it is meant to tell you that if I can make it, and believe me, I will share my story with you one day, and you will be very surprised by how anyone can make it. Yet not anyone can make it, because that is a choice. So you kind of need to choose to get away from your current situation. But for that to happen, you need to acknowledge where you are, to look around, to see who your friends are, to see what kinds of things you speak about with people. Do you enjoy these topics? Do you enjoy gossip? Do you enjoy speaking about irrelevant things, bad things? Or are you focused towards improvement? Are you focused towards growth? Can you integrate the two? How is your capacity of listening? Are you a good listener? Can you respect yourself and your boundaries? And can you draw up a life for yourself that you yourself can respect? Be it routines, be it habits, be it doing something good for yourself and people you love. There is infinite amount of ways in which you can improve your life in this very moment. And by moving away from where you are, not escaping, moving away, but first acknowledging where you are and who you are, with no labels, simply observing, seeing, and feeling what you're feeling. Observing your life with no analysis, simple observation, and trusting that that which you want to happen to you will happen if you do this thing. For me, it's recording this video and telling you this exact same message, because it is a selfless sharing of the knowledge that I have been bestowed throughout my life. And I'm sharing that knowledge with you. You might say, well, you haven't said anything specific thus far. And I will tell you, listen to this video again. If you have made it thus far, listen to this video again and imagine you're listening to yourself. Because what I am is a mirror, and who I am is essentially you and yourself. If you do not understand this concept, you will. And I cannot be the one telling it to you. The seed has already been planted, and I'm trusting you to grow it. Take this message in any way you want, but I hope you take it with a smile. Do what is right for you. And if you consider yourself poor, you're not. You're not alone. Please make a comment to this video. Reach out to a community that wants to communicate with you. Reach out to a friend, someone who listens to you, someone who is there for you, someone who can support you. And if no one can, you have yourself. You always have yourself. Never forget that. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. Take care.